Yeah, I think we're going to get started in the panel section. Just out of curiosity, how many of you have wipe coded anything before? Right. That's a good crowd. How many of you have put agents into production? Okay, that's a smaller fraction. How many of these agents are in mission critical applications? Okay, that's about right. We'll get started. Maybe I'll just stand up here. So the first question is, we're seeing that there are going to be billions of agents, maybe more, right? Some predict 1 to 2 billion agents, probably tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions of agents. Only 10% of them actually go from maybe demo to production, and maybe even fewer go into mission-critical applications. So when you have built agents in the past, where have you seen them failing? And what lessons have you learned?
I heard an agent deleted a database the other day.
Thank you, man.
Is it too soon? I don't know.
Too soon, yes. In case you didn't know, it's talking about Rapid. So, can I give more details about it, though? It was an actual production database, and we could roll back. I don't want to make it sound as a co-op, but I mean, I can break the ice, which I already did partially. Look, I think the agents that we're building are going to keep breaking almost on a monthly basis, and most of us are going through the process of refactoring them, maybe quarterly. There are articles. I think there is a blog post from Manus recently where they re-architected it 4 times over the last year. It's very similar for us. I don't think there is a clear recipe on how to make them stable and reliable over a long period of time. Like, we're really at the beginning, and the fact that models are evolving so fast means that we have to completely reconsider how agents are built. It's not like a steady, progression what we're going through here. There's a lot of work to be done from scratch. I don't know if you guys agree with me.
I'll build, at least in my world as an example, we're operating on production systems. So if you're going to execute a command against a production system, you better know what that command is going to do, because you don't want to take out that hospital network or that patient's device or the Swift server. And so you can't just use agents to throw a bunch of commands against the wall and see what sticks. There is a balance of discovery and determinism. And if you're going to actually touch a production system or touch a production database or whatever, how do you make sure you clearly understand exactly what you're doing in a way that's repeatable, that's debuggable? Most of these agents, at least on production system problems, I don't think have earned the right to do that just yet. And it's going to take a bit of time to build the trust against those kinds of production systems. Definitely for hacking and anything on the offensive cyber side, but anything related to modifying a system of record, the bar is very high for what an agent is allowed to do in that sense.
I guess I'm interpreting your question, Vijay, as like what can go wrong and and in what ways can be prevented from going wrong.
Yeah.
Sierra actually has agents that touch production systems. Like for example, like a customer wants to return their shoes that they bought or something. So the agent actually goes in and can change the system on the back end and do all of that. I think the way that we sort of accomplish it is just being really, really good about containerizing everything, right? And making sure that the agent has the tools that it can access, but then it doesn't have the direct tools, but there's sort of one level of indirection that usually helps. But I think for what's the worst that could have happened, I mean, in customer support, I think it's not as much about like individual conversations as much as you don't want that same mistake to be had over multiple conversations or whatnot, right? And if that happens over time, then it's obvious your agent is not actually reliable. If you have 100,000 calls, you want close to 100,000 of them to be actually successful. So it's really a matter of like being reliable at scale. That is the biggest challenge that I see, and I'm sure it's the same case in a lot of other domains as well.
I think for us, we've seen some kind of challenges at both like the intelligence level and then the infrastructure level. For context, one of our voice agents does these job interviews, right? And like if you're doing a job interview with a person, you don't want the person acting weirdly, and similarly, you don't want your AI agent acting weirdly. And back, over a year ago, when we were still running our AI interviewer on GPT 3.5, it just literally switched roles in the middle of the interview and was like, I'm no longer an interviewer. I'm, interviewing for the job. You interview me, right? And like, that's just so embarrassing. But that sort of stuff happens, right? But there it was like an intelligence problem where like GPT 3.5 was just not as smart as some of the models today, and we've naturally seen, those kind of things approach zero. The second thing is like an engineering and infra problem, which is that for a voice agent, you need to transcribe the text based on what's said, then you need to make the LLM call, then you need to do the text-to-speech thing, and then you need to have all these fallbacks if any one of those steps goes wrong. And like all this is like a completely kind of like new production system that we haven't really seen before. So there's just some natural learning curve and guardrails and all of that in actually like implementing that successfully.
So each of you are hiring for staff building agents, right, across the board, maybe research, technical, engineering. So what kind of new roles have you seen come up, or you wish there was more people with that capabilities to build these agentic systems?
I'll say one. I'll say one from the more researcher perspective. Being a researcher myself, I think there's a lot of headroom for if you're interested in sort of like the cross between research and really understanding products and new experiences. So I actually think a lot of the future is going to belong to actually us dreaming about new interfaces. Right now it's chat. But is that how it's going to be staying for the next 5 years? I would be disappointed if that's the only way we interacted with agents, right? So I think there's this niche of like understanding the technical part, understanding the research, but also being able to, understand how interfaces work or how product works. I think that sort of combination would be really powerful, in my opinion.
I would say in cybersecurity, most of the labor force in cybersecurity is very applied and very practitioner-centric. Rarely do you see that community of folks have advanced degrees in mathematics or statistics or any sort of significant machine learning or AI levels of experience. And on the flip side, rarely do you find folks with machine learning AI researchers that actually have deep subject matter expertise in cybersecurity and so on. So I think in cyber in particular, there's a really big chasm between practitioner knowledge and machine learning AI best practices and techniques. And I think it's going to be very difficult for that chasm to come closer together just because of how difficult it is to become an expert in a variety of these cybersecurity topics, and also how difficult it is to become an expert on the AI side.
I think there's a new category that we call AI engineers, at least most of us in the field are starting to call them in that way. And it's a combination of being, of course, like very strong software engineers, understanding the capabilities of frontier models and how to build agent scaffolds. And last but not least, have that kind of rigorous approach that a scientific researcher has, especially in evaluating and understanding why agents are behaving correctly or not. It's a trifecta that is very hard to find on the market yet. I don't think it's related on level of seniority oftentimes. It's mostly about like how much hands-on experience this candidate has had in building agents previously. And there is a scarcity on the market for that.
For us, I think this is maybe a little bit less directly relevant to agents, but more so AI code gen in general. We're actually building out a team dedicated to accelerating developer velocity with AI code gen tools. And that's just like something that I couldn't have predicted like a year ago. But even just implementing certain things in engineering workflows properly can just be like a 10, 20, 30, X, lever on productivity. And those things are sort of just like no-brainers to invest in.
I think we only have maybe 8 more minutes, so I'm going to ask each one question separately, right? So maybe Karthik, starting with you. You wear a unique hat of research and working at Sierra. As you look forward to the next couple of years, what is exciting for you in the research domain that you want to apply in real-world use cases?
I sort of, I guess I sort of alluded to that at the very end of the talk. I think the two main directions that's most interesting to me are agents that learn on their own and having agents communicate with each other. Because I think like one of the transformative things that AI agents can bring are automating a bunch of different tasks that humans do, but it's just impossible if they're not able to, one, improve on the job, and two, be able to coordinate with each other. So I personally view those as two areas where, obviously there's a ton of research happening even right now, but there's a lot to be done and a lot to be gotten right before we can sort of truly unleash agents, I guess.
Adarsh, you are working on the intersection of humans and AI, where agents and humans work very collaboratively with each other, right? What frameworks have you seen that works where, or at least directions which you're excited about, where humans and agents can work, live hand in hand, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think most people have this model in their heads where it's like, I give an agent a task and they're going to go from like 0 to 100 and just like complete the task. That's actually not the model that I have for this sort of stuff. I feel like it's more of like a bidirectional relationship rather than a unidirectional one where you give an agent some work and maybe it gets you 70% of the way there, but then like that last 30% you need like an expert to go ahead and take it to 100%, or even in a non-expert context you might need to just intervene. So I think in the future there's going to be a huge premium on that 30%. And for all of us, it means that it's just going to unlock a whole new set of capabilities and things that we can do as we add agents into our workflows.
Snehal, you work on mission-critical applications, right? Some of it is offensive, but as you look at next generation of security and trust and safety, what are some things you would recommend people to look at to be safe and secure by design?
I think it goes back to, if you don't, as an overseer of those agents, understand what decisions were made, why they were made, and actually have points of interdiction as appropriate, it's going to be very hard to allow these agents to operate on critical systems. And the more of a black box you are, the harder it is to build trust between the human overseer and the agent. This, of course, assumes the agents don't overtake the world and we become subservient to them. It's a joke amongst the researchers. And so I think that explainability is going to be an incredibly important aspect of everything that you hear today, everything that you see today, and making sure that people understand what this thing is doing, so they can actually operationalize it properly.
And Michele, for coders, right? Right now, you're using as Copilot, let's say, some of these cursor kind of tools or Replit kind of tools. At what point do you see them, humans becoming managers and agents doing all on their own? And at what point do you see them, maybe human doesn't have to do that as well?
I think we're already there for the former to an extent. We see a lot of people running multiple instances of agents in parallel, and they act mostly as managers and tech lead of this swarm of different agents that they are executing different PRs in parallel. It will take, of course, way more time to make that happen for non-technical users. And I do think the path towards completely replacing developers is much further away than we currently believe. This is coming from a person who's inherently tech optimist, and I do think the AI is making incredible progress. But I think that as humans, we are adding that new abstraction layer every time, inventing new frameworks, inventing new way of creating better developer experience, as you were mentioning. And I don't see AI being there as we speak. So maybe that's the next level of accomplishment that we're going to be getting with super intelligence. I don't know what's the timeline. I think what matters is to build in the present. And I think already the tools we have today are very useful in the present.
That's awesome. One last question for each of you. As you look at your own businesses, whether it's technology, whether it's people, or whether it's processes, what are you most excited about in your business?
I'll start. I think anyone that does a venture-backed security company or venture-backed company in general, how do you go from a really interesting idea to a repeatable sales motion to efficient growth at scale? And I think that, one, how do I, as a CEO of my team, allow them to explore, be AI developer first? We're big users of Replit as an example. Embrace how to change the way that they operate. How do I incorporate the latest capabilities into the product? But how do we also keep an eye for efficiency, whether it's gross margins, rule of 40, and so on? Because it's one thing to be a startup in the early stage. It's another to be able to make sure you can scale to a point where you've got the business metrics to build an IPO-able company. And I think for us at Horizon 3, we've really done a good job of balancing exploratory research and pursuing and really, defining a category that's really hard to build against, which is offensive cyber, with making sure we do so in a financially responsible way, so we actually have an economically viable path to an outcome.
I can go next. So Sierra's main goal right now is to build agents for the enterprise, and we're starting with customer support. But I actually think the most exciting part lies in the future, where you can think of for any enterprise, any sort of engagement that they have with their customer will go through an AI agent. So there's sort of this huge potential space where everything you do, you have your website, you're selling stuff or whatnot, right? Everything goes through an AI agent, and that sort of offers both from the enterprise side a way to have personalized support for different users or your customers, but at the same time offers for the customers a more personalized experience, right? So you don't have to wait on the phone or wait to chat with a human on the other side. So I think it's a cool problem both from the business standpoint, but also from the technical standpoint, because this is a use case where you can imagine the holy grail vision of being able to talk to an AI system and be able to do things. Like it's a very, very realistic thing that it's up and coming right now, right? It's happening right now, and the space is just ripe for it. So I think that's super exciting, and I think that's going to be a very, very exciting thing for the next few years.
I think for me, there's a lot of things to be excited about, but one thing just reflecting on the journey is 2.5 years ago, I was taking computer science classes in college before I dropped out. And you fast forward those 2.5 years, and now Mercor does several hundreds of million in revenue run rate, and is growing really quickly. And I think that whole experience is extremely jarring, right? And you learn a lot of things along the way. And I think that has been one of the most exciting, things for me, just like as a personal thing. But for the company, what I'm the most excited about is this new wave of RL, where the models, in order to get more and more sophisticated and think deeper and think harder, need to get rewarded for more granular reasoning chains. And the way that we're seeing all of the labs kind of approach this problem is through these really, really detailed rubrics that reward those reasoning chains and often require a lot of human expertise to craft them. Or even for computer use or like code execution and things like that, you need to define these RL environments, which define the optimal start state, end state, and how you're going to reward and eval the model for all of these economically valuable things. So I think that's what I'm most excited about.
I believe in the past few months, we proved that it's going to be possible to give coding skills to any knowledge worker. And I find that extremely exciting because we can turn every person into a generalist. I think that's going to bring a lot of abundance in the world, and the boundaries of what professional roles are will really blur out over time. And that really matches our company mission, as you know.
Awesome. I want to thank the panelists, Mikhail, Karthik, Adarsh, and Snehal. So give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thanks, guys. And the next event is going to be Don and Vinod. So a request to come on stage, and thanks again.